right, welcome back to the studio. I have with me here in the studio, I have a Mr. Olusegun Ario, who is the editor of Auburn Express News. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you.
Yes, and I have Dr. Felix Olorinda, who is a public affairs analyst and a protection professional, and he will be joining us via Zoom all the way from Ogun State. Thank you so much. All right. So quickly, just as we've seen in the report, the hashtag End Bad Governance protest started on Thursday, the 1st of August. I mean, the preparations has been on for a while, and we've had so many CSOs and different groups come to say, don't have this protest, go for dialogue, negotiations, blah, blah. But we eventually had the protest on Thursday. We had on 2nd of August, which was yesterday, Friday, and in some states in the country are currently having a protest as we speak. But let's look at the activities that has happened from Thursday, Friday, and even up to this morning with the protest. How would you, what is your overall analysis on how the protest has gone so far? Let's start with Mr. Ariyo in the studio.
Thank you very much. What I would just say is that the people are expressing their right to protest, and, which I think they have a right to do that. And then the government too is here to respond to what the people are concerned about, their pressing issues. And then we saw that some part of Nigeria, skirmishes, in Kano, that led to curfew, 24 hours curfew position by the governor. And then we have just people, the protest led by the former Minister of Transport. I saw him, and then I saw one other reverend, a prophet, leading the protest. And then when they were done, I saw that they were coordinated actually. So Lagos State, we saw the protest too, and with the way they were coordinated, following the injunctions of the court. And then there are little disagreement as to how they should be confined, and then those that are coming for them regarding those that are opposing the protest, and then why they ask that they can't go inside the park, and then they prefer to be outside for security reasons. And then we still have the Abuja protest too. At the time, we saw that about 4, 5, 6 buses, white buses came. We don't know their intention at first, and then the clip shows that the Nigerians are watching them. People are on social media live to cover what exactly is their motives. But eventually, we saw that they drove away. 6 of them filled with people inside, individual Nigerians, and we don't know their motives, but that is what so far we saw. But then the right of the people is accepted in the Constitution, and they are exhibiting. So what I still don't understand, or what I don't know, is that we have a precedent that we think that according to Senator Shehu Sani, says is the #1 protester in Nigeria, that he knows the in and out, and then he was pledging that those that fought for NSAS and that are still under incarceration should be released, even though there's a counter statement from the Nigerian police saying that nobody who is having any affiliation with NSAS that is still in prison custody that they can confirm. Oluwari Jobi gave that statement, and we did that story. So, so far so good. What we know is that we should wait for the outcomes. They are giving about 12-point agenda that they want the president to attend to, such as the Constitution, bringing down the Constitution, and then give us a new Constitution. Yesterday, the Northern Elders Forum have pledged their support with the End Bad Governance. So development are still unfolding. We are following what they are doing so far. So that is the assessment so far.
All right, so let's get the view from Dr. Felix. I'm sure we still have Dr. Felix there. I mean, looking at the exercise so far, Thursday, Friday, some states still are still having their protest as we speak. How would you assess the coordination, the behaviors in different states? Of course, we know that different states had their different situations, and some states got, had the protesters or hoodlums or whatever, there were some lootings that took place, and I think there were some killings in Kaduna as well. But generally, just give us a general view of how what you've seen so far.
Largely peaceful. And in some areas of the country, particularly in the northern area part of Kano, Kaduna, and I think Abuja, has been not the way managed. But out of Lagos, maybe because of the experience of the NSAS in 2020 that led to a lot of looting and destruction of public property. So I think Lagos end has been well managed, and there's been that coordination between the protesters and the law enforcement agencies. So, and I think we have seen that largely the process has been successful in Lagos, and I think government has been able to hear the side of the people. There's hunger in the land, and things need to be done differently. And we hope that the government will take measures to address those issues raised by the protest.
Okay. So I think on Thursday or so, the FCT minister, that's Wike, had come out to state that the federal government are open to having dialogue with the protesters. Do you think that that would actually bring an end? But I mean, we're also looking at the fact that there was an issue on having a face to who is the representative of these people protesting. At some point it was like they were faceless, but eventually they had some CSOs come out to say, okay, yes, we are the ones going forth for this. But do you see the federal government sitting with, let's say, representatives of this protest, and do you see them coming to a final agreement, put it that way?
Well, I think the protesters I watch on other television stations, the director of their mobilization was television. We in their lawyers represented them with the law enforcement, with the IG. They had a meeting with the IG. And so these protesters, a lot of people are saying they are faceless. They are not faceless because they have a lawyer representing them. So if you want to get them, you usually get them with their lawyer. They have a lawyer that is representing them, that's having a meeting on their behalf. So I think the government know what to do, to try and get them to sit down with them. And whether it's faceless or not faceless, the issue that have been raised, the issue that everybody can attest to. So why not just address the issues and leave the personality behind the protest alone? Because the issues are there. The issues are very clear. So that there's hunger, there's so much anger because people find it difficult. Foodstuffs are not affordable. So what else do you need? So everybody, even those government officials know they have constituents, the parliamentarians, they know. So they know that in their constituencies, people are suffering. Never like this before. So whether there are people behind it, whether there are people driving it, whether they are faceless or them, address the issues, and there'll be no need, to say they are faceless or not faceless. So let's leave the shadows. Let's pursue the substance. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So coming back to the studio, still on that dialogue conversation that the federal government are offering. But I mean, at the cost of the protest, most of what the protesters are saying is, Mr. President should come out and address Nigerians. Over and over, we've heard a couple of the protesters come out to say, President Tinubu, address Nigerians. So do you think this giving an open door to negotiation would be a better way to solving this issue over coming out to give a general address or speech to Nigerians?
When the way it is now, the government don't know that there are hundreds of millions at home that are in support of those people out there. There are hundreds of them that are supporting them. And then watching the way events unfold, that on one hand. Now, let us x-ray the NSAS protest. When the protest was, started initially, Buhari did not take them seriously. He didn't take them seriously. So, as it unfolded, what I discovered then as a reporter was that Buhari quickly came up and said, okay, he came up on air. He didn't address, it was what they were saying, he was responding immediately. When he saw that the way things were going is going to go beyond expectation. So he was addressing it. Immediately he came up and said, okay, he directed the Inspector General of Police to disband NSAS immediately. So I want to pick from there. You don't need even addressing any nation, or we are tired of getting to hear grammars every day. But what we know, as an expert in environment and a qualified journalist, what I know that I think can be done is to immediately start to look at those things those NSAS people have outlined, and then begin to talk on them.
The NSAS or
the End Bad Governance. So begin to talk on them in the way Buhari didn't see it as a threat before, but when he begin to see that the momentum was gaining meaningful ground,
but
he begin to begin to respond to it. So we expect President Buhari, before he gets to that level, he should respond. But what I don't know, what I still can't understand is the statement coming from the defense headquarters, from Nigerian Army General. You see, anytime I see soldiers talking like this, and I see President Tinubu, you know what reminds me of? It reminds me of the fact that this president was a NADECO member. He knows what we went through in the military. He knows what he went through, including Professor Wole Soyinka, Baba Okpadokun, the rest of them, what they went through in their NADECO days. I need to remind the president that he knows it. They are the strategic planner those days. Kudirat Radio, all those things by former governor of Ekiti State 5, Dr. 5. So all this, they know it. They are the strategic, they know it. So when the people they are on the opposition, on the part for many decades. So I don't expect President Tinubu to even allow, the Chief of Defense Staff to come out with a statement like that, because these are your people. They have been part of Tinubu. Many of them are part of this president. When he says anything, they listen to him. So posterity is at stake here. Okay, the president should remind himself in the days, that he was fighting the military. So when I saw the statement from the defense headquarters, I'm a little bit discouraged. Given the fact that we have a president who had gone through the experience of NADECO, who knows the way the military operates, who knows everything about them, how to tackle them. There were those who fought these people, and then asking them to begin to issue out statements, to begin to let the people feel that they are not in a democracy. It is very telling. So I want to hold it there.
Okay. All right. So coming back to Dr. Felix, part of what most of the people who were speaking against the protest, even before the protest started, part of what they said, or their point, was that the president is just barely up to a year on the seat. So probably Nigerians should give him more time, to solve all of these issues. And I mean, looking at the fact that when he came in, there were a lot of, standing debt and a lot of issues that needed to be sorted out. So their point was that he needed more time. Let's give him more time to see what he's able to do. So do you agree with them? Do you really feel the president actually needs more time? Or do you feel that, the 1 year span, we should be able to have seen, things get better gradually, if not perfectly, but at least see a little improvement?
I do not subscribe to that notion that the president needs more time. the president government is an APC government. So the government was there for 8 years. So the president was supposed to continue in that trajectory of the APC-led administration. So the issue of the governor, the president need more time, because the genesis of this hardship was when the fuel subsidy was removed. So that means a lot of work, enough work was not done, enough study was not done to know that what's going to be the outcome. So if somebody is hungry, people cannot afford to eat. So how much time do you want to give them? And people in government, do they give more time to themselves? They are buying themselves SUV, they are thinking of buying another presidential jet for the president. How much time do they need? So nobody should tell us about they need more time. It's insulting to the Nigerian people that we can't feed ourselves, that tomato is so expensive, rice is not as expensive. I thought we have a rice pyramid during the last regime of Buhari. We saw it on display on television, how they have been able to make Nigeria sufficient in rice production. And suddenly, that same rice production that was a pyramid that we saw it in Abuja on television, and now a bag of rice is almost 100,000. I priced it yesterday, 97,000. So how much time do we need to bring down the price of a bag of rice, bag of beans, gari? These are common staple food of Nigerians. So how much time? Another 1 year? Another 6 months? That's not an excuse. So this government needs to keep the ground running and bring down the price of food. People are not talking about. We are talking about people can't eat. Families can't survive. And you are saying the government needs more time. What time? Nobody should tell us about time. No, about time. How much time do they need? How much time does the president need to remove the subsidy? The same speed at which they remove the first subsidy is the same speed they should make, food available to people. That's what we are talking about.
All right. So I still in line with what we're talking about right now. I think at the course of the whole heat of the protests coming in, stories were out that the price of rice, a bag of rice, had gone down to I think 40,000 naira or so, and everyone was asking one question: what stopped them? What stopped the federal government from doing something like this? Did they have to wait for the people to take up this step before they now have to come in and start? And I think one of the actions they took as well was I think taking off tax or so from some goods and all. So now Nigerians are asking, do we have to threaten with strike and protest before the federal government now come up to take decisions and actions that they are supposed to make on their own without being pressured by the people?
I don't think the price of bag of rice is 40,000. I don't know. Are you sure?
I mean, it was on the news, but we haven't seen anyone benefit from it.
Yesterday, I went somewhere to price a bag of rice in Ikeja, and I saw it at 97,000, 50 kg, 97,000 naira as of yesterday. So this issue of the bag of rice now for this where? I think it's fake news.
We are still searching for beneficiaries.
What was said was that
okay.
The federal government intervened by introducing their own local rice to subsidize the price. So their own local rice is going to be going for 40,000 naira. So that is what they are doing. There's an intervention ongoing. As I'm talking to you right now, the president has removed tax from pharmaceutical and medical products.
Yeah.
As we're talking right now, the president said he has been able to, went to court to get a Supreme Court judgment for local government. But what is lacking, is that, you're talking about time. Let me put it to say this.
Okay.
The president needs time, actually, as a researcher, I must tell you.
Okay.
Because he's not the person who brought us to where we are now. Everything starts gradually over time. In planning, there is what called phases, and it comes in negative terms too. When something is getting, gradually to a very bad level, you will see it coming. It will be coming in phases, especially when the policies is even channeling towards that negative area, it will come in faces. But by the time it gets louder, that is when you begin to see that whoever find himself or herself in that position at that time would get the heat. And that's exactly what the president is getting now. But what I would say is that the president still needs to speak to Nigeria to tell them all the items that I gave, to say, okay, this is what we are going to do. It is in my plan. We are going to do this. Electoral reform, if the president can do, the former president of President Jonathan, that electoral reform consumed him, consumed the president. If you look at that, he was the one that introduced Justice Uwe's reform, headed by Justice Uwe and then the secretary, Professor Atari Jega. This reform consumed the President Jonathan. He's got choice. But today, when you talk, you make reference to President Jonathan in terms of average maintenance of development, in terms of food, in terms of security. You will still give it to the president, the former president, because he wants the best for the country. But the people are not really seeing what the man was trying to say at that time. So I'm saying this because I wanted the present president to see the planning, the process, the execution as a very key factor he must begin to embark upon. For example, we talked about the Supreme Court judgment. Now the Attorney General have said that they are still looking at how to land on all those tenureship issues and then the direct payments that they should give it to them. So I don't expect them to be telling us, you are the one that took this law, the interpretation, law, what's it called, case to the Supreme Court for them to interpret. I expect by before the interpretation, the Attorney General would have been planning, at least as a lawyer, a senior lawyer, he would have begin to see, okay, if it falls this way, this is how we're going to move, this is how we're going to do. So I don't expect him that the judgment, the verdict of judgment would meet him at a shock and then begin to say he's still finding ways to land. I don't know. You are the Attorney General by now. The Supreme Court has given the verdict of. We should see the more interpretation coming from the Attorney General's office. So these are key things we expect the president to begin to tell us. The Nigerian people say we don't want this constitution. The Northern Elders Forum has came out yesterday to issue a press statement to say that they are in support of end bad governance and that they are standing by them. So if the Northerners have said they have accepted the 12-point agenda of the people, then let it cut across. We have National Conference resolution on the ground that speak volume on all these agitators have said. Go and pick it. I have said it here several times. We have a Orasoye report that talks about the reform of the police. Pick it, tell them. Professor DIG Osayode's report. Now, you picked Orasoye's report. You said, okay, they are implementing, you have set up a committee. We didn't hear anything from them. These are the things the government, the Nigerian people are saying. Let us find a lasting fit for all these things, the matching words with action. So, okay, the faces of this thing, will give ourselves 3 months, we should clear off from here. This one, 3 months, give me 90 days. I can assure you, this protest will will just go into extinction naturally. But okay. Not talking, not saying anything. The people are saying, and we say it is the people's government. Then what is the meaning of the definition of the people's government? We should need to tell ourselves what exactly is the meaning. Is it that we are practicing democracy under military or military under democracy? So they need to let us know so that we don't talk. We will keep quiet in the way we used to do in the time of military. Whatever they bring, we say, okay, you have accepted. So we know that, okay, we are under the guise of military and then we keep quiet. So that's my views about it.
All right, with that being said, we'll just quickly take a break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversations. I still have my 2 guests on ground to still carry on with this discussion, but we'll just quickly take a break, and when we return, we'll continue. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the studio. So I still have Dr. Felix and I still have Mr. Olusegun Ario with me here in the studio, and Dr. Felix joining us via Zoom. So coming back to Dr. Felix, let's look at the security part of the protest. Yes, we said it was well coordinated in some states, but we also know that some states, we lost lives in Kaduna. You know, there were a lot of looting in Kano and I think some other northern states. But I mean, before the protest started, we saw the proactiveness of the security to make sure that what happened during the NSAS protest doesn't repeat itself. So we saw a lot of deployment to different states to make sure they're on standby. But looks like we really don't know what happened. But what do you think might have gone wrong in those states? Were the protesters, did the protesters overpower the military, or do you think there was more to it or something?
Well, I think it was on social media that part of those who are even looting in Kano were some law enforcement people too were seen carrying bags of rice. You see, whether in the military, whether in the law enforcement, police, everybody is hungry in this country. A lot of people are hungry. And I don't agree with my colleague in the studio when he said the government needs more time. I think government is a continuum. The genesis of this problem is because the fuel subsidy was removed. That we're buying fuel in a day that from 200, about 198 naira per liter, the fuel price moved to 600 in a day. That is the genesis of this problem. Let's be very clear about it. There's no place in the world, it's not only in Nigeria because of our resilience, that we have waited and gave this government up to 1 year. There's no place in any part of the world where price will jump like that and people will not react. People were supposed to react instantaneously, but because we are very resilient people, we waited for more than a year. This is about 15 months. And this government has 48 months. They have for equal. So when you remove 15 months from 40, because let's be clear, this government is elected for 4 years. Now 15 months is gone out of 4 years. So how much time do they need? Is that calculation not done to know that when you move fuel, which is at the bottom of everything? I drive SUV. I travel outside Lagos. The last time I traveled, I spent almost over 80,000 naira just to buy petroleum into my car, just from Lagos to Ife and to back to Lagos. It's not sustainable anywhere. And this is a country where we have petroleum. We are a producer, one of the largest. I think the 5th largest in the whole world. And yet, there's no refined products. You can't get petrol to buy. So let's be very clear. This government should sit. Okay, how much money in this same 1 year? Government has renovated the house of the vice president. 21 billion. In the US, the same house the vice president has been living in the last 20, 30 years has not been renovated. So we can cross-reference other areas of the world where this thing is done. How many times have you heard that the house of the White House in the US has been renovated? How much do you have? So SUV is being bought for the legislator. How much money? 70-something billion. Each legislator, 400 or something of them are driving SUV made in Japan. There are SUV that are assembled in Nigeria. They do not consider that as worthy enough for them. So there's a misplacement of priority. That's why we are having this problem. Let nobody deceive us that they need time. Before the election and when you took power, you will have done your study to know that if you remove this first subsidy on day one of your government, it's going to inflict pain on the people. Because those who are bringing food, the roads are not there, the roads are bad. So what is the root cause of this hunger is because we do not have petrol. People who are bringing food from the hinterland to the food because of petroleum, because of transportation, everything is too high. So let the government do something and not tell us that. So if that problem is there, look, in some other places, this protest have been well managed in Lagos because of the experience of NSAS. I do not support the looting and the destruction of public property. In fact, in the last NSAS, when I drove around, I see how many high-capacity buses of government of Lagos State procured for the masses were destroyed, burnt down. It breaks my heart. So no one wants to sit down. Our courts, our public institutions were destroyed, were burnt down. No, that's not part of the protest. So definitely, those are the words of the free column terrorists that government need to free them out. Law enforcement agencies, military, whatever, need to deal with them. But those who are genuine protesters, who are backed by the constitution to express their anger, so that because if we don't do that, this government, we don't know, they live in opulence. We saw it. We see the way they drive in convoy. Even the government of other countries that are doing developed countries, you don't see them. You don't see government of Israel living a life of opulence, living a lifestyle that's totally different from people they are representing. So that's the crux of this matter. If we are going to make adjustments, we are going to give government time. Let us see that we do not need for date ministers in Nigeria, because the largest economy in the world, the United States economy, is driven by less than 20 cabinet secretaries. In Europe, in Germany, 15 cabinet. Why are the press people not talking about that? Why do we need 48 cabinet ministers in Nigeria? Why? How? What are they doing? How many of them do we even know? We don't need minister of state, minister of this, minister of state. We don't need all those. Cost of governance in Nigeria needs to be brought down.
Felix. Okay, so Dr. Felix, just as you've mentioned,
Yes.
I think one of the things that has fueled anger in these protesters are the fact that they feel the funds are being mismanaged. The country's funds are being mismanaged.
Exactly.
And you've already explained. But now you also spoke about removal of fuel subsidy, which is always and will every day be an issue until something better is done. But now the question I want to ask, which I think is a question in everyone's mind, do you think it's too late to reverse that statement? Do you think it's too late to reverse that decision and return back subsidy? And do you think it's the best thing to do to solve this issue we're currently having now?
Okay. I think we are hearing from the NNPC that early August, Port Harcourt refinery will start, producing products, and in December we have products from other refineries, and by January, Nigeria will be a net exporter of refined products.
Well, we heard numerous times.
Also, let's hold them to that promise that when we have products from Dangote refinery in August, when we have products from Port Harcourt refinery in August, then we can't be paying the amount we are paying for petrol. This hunger will continue, definitely. So the price of petroleum has to come down, because it is at the base of everything that is fueling this hunger and hunger. When we can bring down the price of petroleum, when people spend less money on moving around, even we have people who are bringing food from the rural areas to the urban centers, and part of why this price has gone up, tomato is coming from the north. How much do they spend now, on diesel for those vehicles to bring those products to the urban center? When those things can come down, this government should know that every time price of petrol has increased, it has affected market prices. So there's a connection to that. So on that, they are able to deal with that. Because even in Lagos, it's only in Lagos we are buying petroleum at 600. When I travel as in Ibadan, where I bought it at 850 naira per liter. Some places 900 naira per liter. It's only in Lagos that you can still get it at 600, 568 from NNPC. But in other places outside Lagos, they buy as high as 850, 750. So it's not sustainable. So the moment the refineries are bringing more products and they can bring down the price of petroleum, then you see that it will affect prices in the market. And we can now, from there, start thinking that we have a government that is responsive to our yearnings. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to the studio, and I'm still throwing the same question to you. Do you feel it's too late to reverse taking out subsidy? Do you think that going back to fuel subsidy is the best way to get out of this situation we are in right now?
It is not. It is not the best way. The subsidy, you see, the planning and the timing of the president, by pronouncing that removal of subsidy was exactly what befell the whole process that we are seeing now, and then the reaction that comes with it. Okay, fuel subsidy has been and harbinger of corruption in Nigeria. Whether you like it or not, go take it down. I'm a journalist. We have done a lot of investigative report. Many people, this same fuel subsidy was what made one of the House of Rep, Farouk, to be in prison today. In the case of subsidy, this same subsidy is the same thing that happened during the former Minister of State for Petroleum, you know, that they have revealed the landing cost and the transport cost, you know, that is justifying it during Buhari regime. I've forgotten his name, the former Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Ike something, I can't remember. So this subsidy thing has been enmeshed with corruption. But what I expect the government to do, President Tinubu just started one now. They have resolved the issue of this local refinery between Dangote and government, and they have now accepted that the crude oil that is owned by God, given to Nigeria, is sold to Dangote in Naira. There are so many very wonderful policies that can be used, you know, that can be implemented that would bring down the cost of petroleum. Bringing subsidy in will drive in corruption in Nigeria. There are many experiences that have shown during the time of investigation. At that time, we were able to know that many people were just going there to register their name, their company, and then get the report from ship to show that they have really actually brought in a vessel, which eventually was nothing to show for it. Came out to be that there's nothing to show for it. So the subsidy thing, even the IMF accepted all over the world. Nobody is not accepted the fact that this subsidy, this so-called subsidy in oil, crude oil and refinery product has been enmeshed with corruption. Let us even talk about the crude oil itself. Do you know how many resources comes out from the crude oil itself? How many of them is Nigerians talking about? Only the PMS and the kerosene that are affecting them. There are many chemicals, the ones they use for image, posters, all these things are coming from there. The diesel, all this, there are many resources coming from that crude oil. Nobody is talking about accountability of that crude oil and how it has been sold. So the corruption thing is too much in that sector. So removing the subsidy to me is a one step, you know, and but cushioning another effect, for example, electricity, putting subsidy in is a good step, but removing the subsidy is a bad step from electricity. So remove subsidy from the process. You know that it has been enmeshed with corruption for decades. When you remove, then put it in transport, put it in electricity. Let the Nigerian people see that there are other areas that the subsidy is working. But in this context, nothing of that subsidy is working. Instead, they removed subsidy from electricity. In the first place, we don't even know that
Nigerians did not know
that there is a subsidy in electricity. All these things are supposed to be done in alternative to the removal of subsidy, so Nigerians will not complain. But in this reality that we are finding ourselves, they are just removing, but they don't think that anybody exists. So they feel that they are just mortar. Let us remove it. Let's remove this. So whatever it happens to them, let them enjoy it by themselves. This is what is making Nigerians to react. But factually, fuel subsidy should not be sustained. It should not be sustained. It should be removed. But the timing, the planning, the process is wrong, and that is the aftermath effect that we are seeing right now. That is staring us in our face in Nigeria today.
Okay, so while we wrap up for the program, coming back to the EDBA governance protest / hunger protest that is currently ongoing. I mean, it is to be a 10-day protest.
Yes.
And this is day 3, which means we still have 7 more days to
yes.
go. But do you see this protest getting to the 10th day, or do you see the federal government coming in to intervene, or even with the body language and the moves of the federal government right now, do you see this protest not getting to that 10th day?
You see, let me quickly digress a little before I come to that question. You see, you asked that question regarding those that were killed in Kaduna.
Yeah.
A policeman was involved, was killed too.
Yeah.
In Katsina, there are cases of violence that leads to killing, even in Kano, many, and then looting.
Yes.
There are things we need to talk about on looting. You see, if you watch the trends of happening in Nigerian protest, you discover that many of these northern brothers, they don't understand the dichotomy between protest and then looting. They feel, many of them in the north, they feel that once they call for protest, it is a very good avenue for them to loot everywhere. If you check, you will discover that many a times, apart from the NSAS that lead to ShopRite and the rest of them in Lagos, all other protests, it has always been like that in the north. What I feel is lacking in that aspect is advocacy.
Okay.
Yes, there's a need for advocacy in the north for those who are ready to coordinate any protest in the north. Must tell them the definition of protest, the reason for protest, why you must protest, and why a protesters must be armless, why they must, fight for their rights by advocacy, and then following the fundamentals of the rights that they must follow, and then not going out of the confines of that protest law, and then begin to turn it to crime, begin to turn it to be criminal, where police will begin to take advantage of and say, this is what you have done that is criminal in nature and that the state will not accept. And
so
then
you don't think it was hijacked? You think the protesters were the ones who...
Another discussion is what we just talked about now.
Okay.
The protests, we have seen a lot of cases of being hijacked. This one is not an exception. But the Kano State one and the other ones, I discovered that there are many that lacks understanding of what is the definition of a protest and why you should protest. They just feel that, hey, it is our turn. It is opportunity for us. Let us this is that we are even aiming at collecting what belongs. Let us go and pick. So what? Instead of going through criminal means to protest, and then the nation, the national law, get caught up with you. Why not get more advocacy in those areas that you saw that things of that nature is being done? For example, the Lagos protest, it was hijacked. That's why you saw looters and everything. But during the time of Jonathan, you can see how they coordinated themselves. You can see those people that came out, Bakare, Pastor Bakare, Ojo Dumaki, the rest of them, many of them came out. All of them were there. That Ojota protest, look at the way it was coordinated. And look at the way NSAS was coordinated. I followed the story, I reported the story. There are medical doctors in NSAS. There are medical doctors, there are nurses, there are lawyers, there are people who even are bringing food.
Yes.
There are volunteers from every. So you can see the level of planning. But before you know it, it was hijacked, and then other things begin to follow. So we need more advocacy in that aspect. Then the government and those that are hijacking it, they know themselves. We know in the media. But a country where truth is spoken, it begins to see a lot of humiliation. You have to be very careful. You have to speak what you think is good and be very careful, so that a government, according to my friend, said we are operating a civil rule and not a democracy. But not in advanced country where if anything happens, you can speak your mind and then. But we know they have been hijacked, and we know how the thing turned out to be, and then how it eventually came out to be, then allowing criminalities to shelve in, and then police begin to look at that aspect and begin to take action. You don't expect the police to fold their hands to see unlawfulness begin to take place, and then you see the police should not follow. There are many people who are wonderful citizens who goes on their way, who need the protection of the police, of their life and their property. So they must be balancing in that aspect. So that's my view.
All right, so let's have this Dr. Felix last words while we wrap up. Do you see this protest getting to day 10?
Oh, there's no need. There's no need for it to go to day 10. I think the message has been sent. And I'm sure the government has heard loud and clear that people are hungry, people are angry. And so they need to retune their strategy. And the issue of protest not getting out of Addis is a matter of strategy by law enforcement community. If you don't want a protest to be hijacked, just make sure you confine it. That's why government was good in that. Confine them to a space. Okay, even the one that we are referencing by Jonathan, it was because it was confined to that Freedom Square in Ojota. They didn't go outside of that place. Everything was done there. So the moment you allow street protest, you will be hijacked by old number. A lot of people are hungry in our country today. People are idle. People don't have anything to do. So those people we find a way to loot. But when you confine them to a space, you don't allow street protests, people going on the street and entering shops and property. So that's the only way you can manage it. So, and the government was able to do that in Lagos. They were able to confine them to a specific venue, and so the law enforcement were able to protect other people. So once that can be done, and I think there's no need for the protest to continue any longer, because I'm sure the government has had the message very clear, and they're going to go back to their drawing board and do what they have to do. And I pray that we'll see the result, we'll see the outcome positively in the coming months.
All right, so thank you so much, Dr. Felix Olorunda. Thank you so much for being a part of the program today. He's a public affairs analyst, and he joined us all the way from Ogun State. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, I also have with me in the studio Mr. Olusegun Ario, who is the editor of An Express. Thank you so much for also being part of the conversation.
Thank you.
And that will be a wrap for today's program. Thank you so much to all our viewers who took out time to be a part of this program. My name is Meg Warren. You Mazaka. Do keep it a date with us, same time, same station, again, Galaxy TV, for more interesting conversations as this. So thank you so much. As for now, goodbye.